Variation is the topic we want to discuss right now and go over. Um, variation, there are two types of variation. We can have direct variation, which means that as one variable increases, the other variable increases. As one variable decreases, the other variable decreases. So that means they vary directly. Um, for example, the more hours you work, the more money you make. That is a direct variation. So your salary is wage times hours worked. Okay, so we could, instead of writing words in math, we use letters. And we like to use X and Y a lot. But for direct variation, we use normally two variables, and we have the K. And the K right here is what we call the constant of proportionality. Okay. But that's kind of like your fixed item in the equation. So if you look at the example I gave you, your salary varies, your hours work varies, but normally your wage does not unless you get a raise. But for the most part, your wage stays consistent. So what we will do with the direct variation and the inverse variation is we will be finding this value oftentimes, setting up our formula, and then either being done with it or solving for other values. Okay, so that's your direct variation, where again, as one variable increases, the other variable increases. The other type of variation is inverse variation. So inverse variation is one item increases, the other one decreases. And this type of equation looks like that. Okay, so when you have this constant k, as x gets bigger, y gets smaller. Okay, because you are eventually approaching this value here. As x keeps getting bigger, y keeps getting smaller. And this is still the constant of proportionality, but anytime you see the word inverse or inversely proportional or anything like that, write this equation down. When you see an example saying directly proportional or varies directly, write this equation down. So let's look at an example of what I'm talking about. So let's just say y varies directly as x. Okay, so they've got to kind of state that, to give you a qualifier. Y is 18 when x is 6. So first of all, we want to find k. So we use y equals k to the x. We know that 18 is k times 6, coming from right here and here. So solving, it's just a basic one-step equation. 6k equals 18. I divide by 6. So k equals 3. So therefore, that is my k, and my direct variation equation is y equals 3x. And so if you are given another scenario and you're asked to find y given x, that's the equation you use. Now sometimes they get a little complicated with the operations. So let's say, for example, y varies directly as the square of x. So in this case, y equals k times x squared. That would be my basic variation equation. So if we're told that y is 64 when x equals 4, and I'm asked to find my k, okay, I substitute. So 64 is k times 4 squared. 64 is k times 16. Divide by 16, and k is 4. So my direct variation equation is y equals 4x squared. Okay, so you it's almost like you're going around in circles. You find k, then you rewrite the equation now knowing k, and then if they gave me x, I could find y. If they give me y, I can find x. Okay, so that's an example of your direct variation. Now let's look at an inverse variation example. So let's say that y varies inversely as, in this case, let's just say they give us x squared. So y is 18 when x is 3. So my inverse variation equation is y equals k over x squared. So I now must find my k. So 18 is k over 3 squared. 18 is k over 9. And here's kind of where the use of proportions comes in handy. Cross multiply. So k is 9 times 18, and k is 162. So my inverse variation equation is going to be y equals 162 over x squared. So if part of your question may be, to find y when x is 9, well, since you found your variation equation, y equals 162 over 9 squared. So just make sure you account for all your operations. So 162 over 81, so y is 2. So, when we talk about the inverse variation, when we first started, y is 18 when x is 3. And what happened was, as x got bigger, y is getting smaller. Okay? And so that's variation. Most of your homework questions are going to involve, finding k and then writing the general equation like this. There will be a few where you're given a scenario where you need to know that you have to find k and create your equation and then work to find the other values. Okay, so that's variation. Good luck. And if you have any questions, just send me an email.